Here we are. Welcome to Pro-Am Strings, everyone, and welcome to this live stream, Henriette Goes Live. It's lovely to see you all here. So let me say welcome to Maya, welcome to Wendy, welcome to Nature Sketches. It's lovely to see you here, and thank you for helping me test this live screen. And this live stream, we're actually full screen now, and that is very, very nice to see. So this is a class where you can ask any violin related questions, and I will do my utmost to answer them to the best of my ability. And in previous live classes we've had a wide variety of questions about violins, about bows, about reading music, about how to organize your practice, about what methods to use, individual issues, and so on. So we'll have a wide variety of subjects, and usually this class lasts for about just under an hour most of the time, and we'll just see until you've finished asking your questions. That's how long it lasts for. But then I have got a pupil at 2, so that is when we need to stop. But it's lovely to see you all here, and someone has already said hello from Pennsylvania. Hello, Pennsylvania. Hello from the UK. If you want to write down where you are, you can just have a little practice using the chat box, because by the side of your screen you should have a little chat where you can write your questions and I can read them this end. There's usually a slight delay, but we'll come to your question, and I'll do my best to organize this class so that everyone gets a turn to ask a question. So hello Linda, and she's also in the UK, in Kent. Is there anyone else? I always really like to read where people come from, because quite a lot of the times they are from all over the world. I know someone's already mentioned that when it is Wendy's from New York. Hello Wendy, nice to see you. I got a message from someone in California who said, well, if it's 1:30 in the UK where you are, it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm not sure I'm going to make that. So if you are here, a very warm welcome. And if you watch it on catch up, that is totally understandable. I'm not sure that I would be able to get up at 5:30, but there are people who are here sometimes from far away, and they get up in the middle of the night. So all credit to you for watching this class. But as I said, this video will stay on the channel for you to watch later if this is you and it's in the middle of the night where you live. Hello Ali, you're from Egypt. Welcome from Egypt. It's lovely to see you here. So, oh, hang on a minute. Lots of things. Maria is from Lebanon, and Terry is, good morning, good afternoon, Terry. You're from Texas. It's lovely to see you here. So the people are coming in all the time. So we'll chat for a little while and then we'll get started properly. So if you want to start writing your questions, that will be really good. And then we'll give some more people the opportunity to log on and find us. And then we're properly off. And it always intrigues me, because it seems that some people know each other, or at least you're all being very friendly to one another and very supportive. And that is what we need in a class like this. And Wendy's already mentioned we're going to be as supportive and helpful as possible for starters. Of course, that is my starting point always in all the lessons, and I'm trying to be that in my videos as well. And if you look behind me here, you've got a little sneak peek behind the scenes there. You can see my light boxes, because this morning I have been recording a new lesson in the All for Strings course, and this afternoon, a bit later on, I should be recording a members only video about the third position. So if you're waiting for that, it is in the making as we speak. And here is Kirsty. Hello, welcome. And you're from Finland. Good to see you here. It's always nice because there are a couple of people who attend every single time we do a live class, so it's lovely. I'm beginning to recognize some names and where these people are from, so lovely to see you. Right, if someone has a first question, then by all means write it in the chat box and I can see it this end and will probably do my best to answer it. Now, in the meantime, I'll tell you about a very valid question that has come in recent days. And this is a person who has been wondering about organizing their practice. And I have done a video on that, so you might look for that. If I remember, I will put a link to that video in the description below this video once it's all live on the channel. But that is an issue that a lot of people find helpful to know more about. And this is about how do you know when you're in a course? Let's assume that you're taking the All for Strings course. How do you know when it's time to move on to the next lesson, or whether to stay on this current lesson for a little bit longer? And of course, when you're learning with the teacher will tell you, okay, it's time now to learn a new piece. And but when you're playing on your own, it's sometimes a bit difficult to know how thorough learning is thorough, and how sort of superficial can you be, and not damaging your progress because you're just skimming over things. And that is a very valid point that this person was making. So how perfectly should you know a piece before moving on to the next one? Super question. Now, there are methods, and the Suzuki method, as it was originally meant, is one that you need to be able to play it off by heart before moving on. I think that is a very valid point when children are learning, but as adults, sometimes we want to pick up a little bit here and then move on and explore what's coming later and then go back. And for adults, that is a completely different thing, isn't it? And you might find yourself just being curious when the next lesson comes out, just having a sneak peek and trying things. But I think as a general rule, you want to be able to play your piece perfectly, so without stopping and without making any mistakes in your notes, and just making sure that you make a nice sound and that you're reasonably in tune on every single note of your piece before you move on. And that means that it will take longer than one lesson or one day to review a video and then move on the next day. And for my pupils that I teach here in my music room here at home, I tend to have 3 pieces on the go all the time at the same time. One of which is a brand new piece, so we're learning it today for the first time. The second piece we have probably started learning last week, so people are already knowing the notes and know how it goes, but it's not yet finalized. They haven't put they may not have all the bowings right, or there are still some notes that are slightly out of tune, or you haven't put any louds and softs in your music. And then there is a third piece which is a week older, shall we say. So in that piece you'll have all the correct notes for a start, a really good grasp of how the phrasing goes, where a phrase finishes and where the next phrase begins. Then you've got really good dynamics. You know large parts off by heart, and not because you've rammed it into your head, but because you've played it so many times that actually things begin to stick in your brain. And then it's really polished all over, you see. So there are these 3 stages. The first one being a brand new piece, I'm going to get to know the notes. Then the second stage, I know the notes a lot better, but I haven't got any sort of brain space on this new piece to add dynamics and other performance directions, or I forget some of the slurs, and maybe some, but not others. And then there is the third phase where you think, oh, I'd actually play this piece to my friend and it's almost finished. I've got all the notes right. I have got good performance directions. I feel comfortable playing. I very nearly know it off by heart. And when you get to that stage, I think it's time to maybe drop it and come back to it later and try a new piece, because there is a lot of merit in regularly changing over your pieces. So I know there are some of my colleagues who let their pupils be on a piece for like 2 months before then picking up another piece. There is a lot of merit into switching your pieces over and learning new material frequently, because it improves your sight reading skills and your note learning skills. So I'd like to have a slightly faster changeover of pieces, because you gain so much from exploring a brand new piece. So I'm hoping that helps this person who asked this question. I do apologise, I have forgotten the name, but this is one of the ways that I like to work. So let me just have a look at the chat box, because in the meantime a lot of questions, a lot of comments have come in. So Terry is asking, will you teach lessons on Suzuki 3 and 4? I have a plan to do Suzuki 3, and once we get through that and I find out how well received that might be, I will start thinking about Suzuki 4. So not just yet for Suzuki 4, Suzuki 3 might be coming at some point, and it will be a members only course, that I know. And then I might have some more time to record things. At the moment I'm recording so many different series all at once that it splits my brain into too many different directions, that I'm now going to first finish the All for Strings course, and that will finish very, very soon. So if you're on that course, I cannot believe I've recorded the 90th lesson in this course today. There will be one bonus lesson after that, which I will record at some point next week. But goodness gracious me, you lot who are following the All for Strings course, if you're still there after 89 lessons, I am in awe of you. That is a lot of lessons that you followed. So I'm going to round off that course first, before then thinking about the next thing to do. Let me have a look at my chat box again. Oh, hello Enika, she's here as well. Ali, after finishing All for Strings, what course do you recommend on your channel, and do you intend to teach volume 2? I do not intend to teach volume 2, to be honest. There is so much material around that follows on from this course that I think it might be more interesting for players to do slightly different stuff. And on your specific question on what to do next, go and check out my concertos. There is a special playlist, concertos, and wait just a little while before and wait just a little while for the bonus lesson at the end of the All for Strings course, because I will answer your question in greater detail there. So a little bit of suspense there maybe, but take a look at the playlist concertos, because you can now start thinking about that. And like I said, these people who followed the 90 lessons, or 89 as they stand at the moment, but the lesson number 90 will come out on Monday. 90 lessons is a heck of a lot of progress. So awesome if you're following that course and you get to the end of that. Superb, really good. Linda, hello Linda, this is your question. I'm practicing Wohlfahrt number 15, which is all quavers, and each note has to be played twice. When I try to speed up, I have trouble coordinating my left and right hands. That is a super valid question, and let me first give you a word of consolation. That happens to most people who practice Wohlfahrt number 15. It's very difficult to coordinate the left and right hands, especially when you play two notes that are the same. Obviously the brain responds much more easily when you play one note and then the next one, because there are different things to do. Repeated notes is a completely different matter. First of all, you might help the brain a little bit by saying in your head 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just marking those two notes that are 1 and or 2 and that are the same helps you coordinate much better. The second thing that I would suggest is put little accents on your down bows to start with, so you get da 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 da. Okay. And then turn that upside down. So maybe start up, down, up, down, up, down. That's very good for the brain because it throws everything that you've ever believed in, and that is quite a challenge. The next method that you can try is to play dotted rhythms. So when I play, let's say I haven't got the book ready here, so I wouldn't know that off by heart right now. But so my first thing that I said is when you play this, let's say you're playing this. So I'm saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you can see that when I connect my playing with my head, it is much easier to get it together. So Linda's question is really about what happens when you do that. It doesn't quite coordinate, and I'm sure that it's not like that, Linda, at all, but this is the way you can connect it. So putting little accents on your down bow, and then playing it the other way, starting up bow, you see, that is very good for the brain, as I said. The last method is to play it in dotted rhythms, and I'm going to start by playing long, short, long, short, long. So that's long, short, long, short, long, and then do it the other way around. Short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. And you create some more difficulty for you to find it easier when you go back to even note. And I'm hoping that might help you. Okay, so watch this video back if I've gone a bit quick summing up all these different methods, but that would help, and it would help in any similar sections that you play in future music. So this is rather a foolproof method, I'd say, that once you get used to playing in rhythms, for instance, or starting sections up bow rather than always playing down bow on even notes, it will help you even when you're very advanced and you play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. There's lots of sections that benefit from playing rhythms as well. So you make me smile now, Annika. Annika is saying, you teach Crickbone in this white shirt. This is my favourite shirt, and thank you for observing that, and I love it. Oh, you make me laugh. Kirsty says, I stop squeezing the neck when playing. Yes, that is something, I assume that you want some help with a suggestion how you can stop squeezing the neck of the violin. Okay, this is also something that many people come across, and it is very tempting, isn't it, to really squeeze that really hard. Now what you might try and do if you want to get rid of that squeeziness, obviously simply progressing and playing for a year or longer, for some a bit longer still, will help you relax. I always give the example, when I first started driving lessons, I was holding on to the steering wheel just like that, and then after a while you can learn to relax, and you notice that there is no benefit in squeezing that steering wheel because you're not going to drive any better than that. And it's the same with the violin as well. When it's new, we tend to put a lot more effort in, and it's also because you are so keen to get it right that you may be squeezing a little bit harder than is absolutely necessary. So one of the things, if you want to get rid of that feeling that you need to always squeeze, is to try and hold the violin just with your neck, like that. And it's a super exercise to try and strengthen the muscles here at the back of your neck, but also to gain in confidence that you don't actually need to hold this all the time, you see. So that is one of the exercises that I would suggest, is just strengthening that. And if you go onto my mindfulness course, There are lots of exercises that give you some freedom of movement. When you do that, you might touch your head or put both hands on your tummy, put both hands behind your back, and so that sort of exercise, those sorts of exercises will help you create freedom of movement, and it will make you realize that actually there is very little benefit in holding it too tight here with your left hand. Of course, there are moments when your neck gets tired and you will need to hold the violin with your left hand, and this violin hold therefore is a sort of balance between your neck and your hand, and if you alternate them, holding and then releasing, neither your neck nor your hand will get too tired while you play. Another exercise is to practice having your thumb loose there. I mean, I know lots of my pupils squeeze the neck of the violin like that, and it makes you realize that actually you don't need to squeeze it so hard. So whenever you're playing open string, you might make a habit of just loosening your thumb, mightn't you? Or before you start, you might just feel that neck go up and down with your thumb and think, okay, can I feel that? Is this really rigid? Check also your left wrist. How is your left elbow, sorry. Can I move this? Can I move it up and down as well? Can I move it sideways? Can I move it forwards and backwards like that? All these exercises will help you relax more while you play. And it depends. If I come across pupils who have played with a squeezy left hand for 40 years, you're not going to cure that overnight. Excuse me. But a little effort goes a long way. So if you practice that a little bit every day, you should feel much more comfortable. In 3 months' time, you might suddenly think, did I just loosen my thumb while I was playing this open string? And that's when you realize that actually you have been relaxing much more. Good question. I like that. Well done. Terry says, it rained a lot here. Wanted to play Raindrops Keep Falling on My Hat. Piano E flat won't work on the violin. Changed it to the music is in F. Good for you. Now on the violin, the easiest key to play on is D major. You were going to change it to A. The music is in F. Okay, A is also good. A or D, I'd say, and even in some cases into G major. If you find it on MuseScore, I have a feeling that you might be able to alter the key and you get the music in a different key. So experiment with that if you like, and see if you can find a key G major, which is 1 sharp in your key signature, or D major, 2 sharps in your key signature, or A major, 3 sharps in your key signature. Depending on how advanced a player you are, you might find a version that suits you. But it's always lovely to play the pieces that we know, and what a nice idea to play Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head when it rains. I mean, it's been raining so much here. I could play that every day here in the UK at the moment. Thank you for your question, Terry. Linda says here, I need to do your mindfulness course for safety and playing and practicing. Yes, that mindfulness course, it's an interesting one. I recorded it, I think, during COVID, because I noticed that lots of my pupils were just stressed by the situation that we were all finding ourselves in. And these are easy exercises to do. Nothing's hard about it. And it covers lots of basic foundations of violin playing without actually playing a super amount of notes. So I found over the period when we had the pandemic that people found themselves being more reluctant to play wrong notes because so many other things were already so difficult. So I was thinking of a course that I could teach where things can't really go wrong. So you don't have to learn many different notes. We don't have to play fancy techniques to still benefit your playing big time, whatever level you're at. So I could thoroughly recommend that course. It's called Mindfulness for Violin Players. It's a sort of violin yoga, if you like. and it explores spaces in particular. The spaces that we are all playing in here. Of course, you have the violin in your left hand and you occupy all of this area here with your bow, and then it goes up and down as well. So there's lots of exercises there to explore the physicality of it. What happens when you lift your arms up when you play, and how does that relate to the violin? So lots of people have commented on that course that it is just very different from anything else that people have ever practiced. So if this is something that takes your fancy, go and check it out. So I'm just looking at my chat box again. Nature sketches. What can I do to relive tension in my left hand, especially during trills? Very good question. And yes, when we play trills, of course, we are deliberately increasing pressure in our left hand. So let me just play a trill here. Now, when we play trills, the thing is to pick up your finger as high as you can and let it bounce back. And that is the right technique for a trill. A trill comes from the bass knuckle here. So if you imagine that your finger goes right up into the air and then you let it bounce back, that is how you get a very clear trill without extra tension in your hand. Now, I've recently done a little YouTube short about the left hand, which shows you that when you imagine a rubber band going over the top of your finger like that, and you can imagine that if I pull that rubber band, I'm going to pull my finger up and then I'm going to drop it down if I release the rubber band. So let me show you that again. Imagine a rubber band going here. I pull it up, that pulls my finger, so I tighten the rubber band here and I let it ping back and my finger springs back. And I can do with my third finger as well. Imagine that rubber band, pull it up from the bass knuckle from here. Now pull your rubber band and then let go, and your finger will spring back. And this is the way to play trills with less tension in your hand. Start by releasing your thumb, because the thumb can usually can very much obscure a trill. Now I'm playing a 2 and 3 trill. So I'm picking up my ring finger as high as I can. Practice this, by all means, practice this with me right now if you've got your violin ready. So a trill is not a very closed one like that, but it comes up as high as you can manage. Okay? A trill which is too low, where you don't get the bounce of the finger on the string, can sometimes sound like a note out of tune. So slow your trills down and pick up your finger as high as you can. And here as well. Can you hear that tapping? If you get that tapping sound, it means your finger is hitting the strings really hard. Not because you put a lot of power in, but because it springs back really quickly. So if you make that movement bigger, it will come back faster. So if you pick up your finger higher, it will come back faster. If I do it like this, can you see now? It's too close. You want to really pick it up, and I'm picking up my finger from the bass knuckle, as I said. Go and explore that and let me know how that works for you. I'm thinking that if you slow your trills down, aim not to play them too fast, picking up your fingers really high. I think that's going to help you. Relieve, yeah. I thought that. Trills good help, says Wendy. Can I use a metronome instead of counting? The answer to that is no. You can't use a metronome instead of counting. You can help your counting with the metronome, so that your counting is even in time. There are so many people who count, and they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where your metronome can help you to stay at the same pace for 1, 2, 3, and 4 all the time. But I would find it, I find that a lot of my pupils find it very difficult to use the metronome and count at the same time. So you can't replace one by the other. And I would start without the metronome just to see if you can count 1, 2, and 3, 4, and or whatever rhythms you're playing. And once you've got the counting in your head with the correct words, then you use the metronome to make sure that that is even in real time, so you're not speeding it up or slowing it down. So you see there is a subtle difference between the two. I hope I'm clear in explaining that. So you can't use the metronome instead of counting. You can use the metronome to check your counting. Does that work for you? I'm not sure. Now, here's another question by Terry. Good question, Terry. Vibrato, what can help as an older player? It depends on what you want to solve, what issue you want to solve, Terry. Is there no vibrato? Is it not coming? I also would like to know how long you've been playing. Because it may well be that that's the thing with adults learning to play the violin, you see. In lesson 2, they sometimes ask me, can I learn to play with vibrato? And it is just too soon. And this is all to do with what we discussed earlier about relaxation of the left hand. Once you're still in your stage in your driving lesson, squeezing the steering wheel, vibrato gets really, really difficult. You have to get past that stage and feel more secure, more relaxed, and hold your steering wheel or play the violin in a more relaxed state. And vibrato, I can't teach vibrato before the body is ready to take the vibrato, if you like. And that sounds a bit vague, but if there is too much muscle tension here still in your hand and in your arm or in your shoulder or in your neck, then the vibrato simply won't appear. You might practice it for many hours a day, but the vibrato won't come if there isn't a level of relaxation that is compatible with vibrato playing, you see. So that might be an issue, that your vibrato is not coming, in which case I'd say play a lot of much easier music. So you encourage the body, the muscles, to relax much more, and then try again. So give it 3 months. Don't think about vibrato for 3 months at all anymore. And then see after 3 months if you've relaxed enough to start the vibrato practice. If your vibrato is already there, because I don't know, perhaps you can clarify that. Vibrato, what can help as an older player? If your vibrato is already there and you want to change from one kind of vibrato to a different one, there are other things that I can suggest. When we learn to play vibrato, when I teach vibrato, I should say it this way. I should start from the beginning. There are 3 different types of vibrato. Maybe there are more, but to keep things simple, it's easier to do that. One is an arm vibrato, where your whole arm moves. Look, I'm starting my vibrato from here. My vibrato is essentially this. Okay. The second way to play vibrato is a wrist vibrato, and it comes from the wrist. So your vibrato is that. The third way to play vibrato is a finger vibrato. And you can see that each of these movements is getting gradually smaller. Now, I like to start teaching an arm vibrato because you use the larger muscle groups. It encourages more relaxation of the whole left arm. And then once that's mastered, I'll go on to teach the wrist vibrato and the finger vibrato. It's very difficult to do it the other way around, starting from the smaller muscle groups to the larger muscle groups. It just won't work as well. So it depends on where you are. If you've ever only learned a wrist vibrato and you want to add an arm vibrato, that will be a challenging task. So you can have a look at my vibrato videos. There's many vibrato videos on my channel. Enika, I think, has got them all in her head because she responded to one. There's another vibrato video, and I thought I was very well observed. But follow my arm vibrato video, which starts just sliding along the string like that. So keeping your wrists straight and pretending you're just moving all of this up and down without getting any sort of waves in your wrist like that. So this arm vibrato goes like that. Okay. The next step, and recently someone commented that this is for many people the sort of aha moment. How do you then transfer that onto the string? Is by putting some super glue here on your fingertip, or pretend super glue, and letting the finger roll. So if I show you this from close up, can you see? My fingertip stays in place, and it's my fingers that roll up and roll out. So they get straighter and they bend. Can you see that? But my fingertip stays in place more or less initially. Okay? And it moves like that because my arm is moving. Okay? So my wrist stays more or less still. It's my whole arm that starts, the movement starts from my elbow. Go like that. Now, if you have a vibrato that is like this and you can't hear it very well, it may well be that it goes way too fast. And I see a lot of this, what I call spasm vibratos. And the trick is to slow it down so that your finger starts to roll again. Now, just like with the trill, if they are too low and too fast, it sounds like a note out of tune. If you have a vibrato which is too fast and too small, it sounds like a note out of tune as well. So you want to, if you want to improve your vibrato, make your rolling much more obvious. Now, there's lots of books have been written about whether a vibrato should pull the finger back and then roll back up, or whether it should push it up and roll back. That really at this stage is not so relevant for us. What we want is this rolling movement. Okay, I'm hoping I'm giving you a couple of ideas here that may help your vibrato. Let me just see. Okay. So these, of course, are very, very general ideas that I'm posing here to you. And I'm hoping that by trying several different ways, you can pick one way of playing vibrato or of relaxing your left hand that might work for you. Obviously, this is a generic idea, isn't it? And it's not a bespoke product to what one person can establish in their violin playing live. So if you want any specific input into your particular vibrato or your particular issue with squeezing the neck of the violin or whatever other issue we have discussed, then perhaps it might be wise, and I've said this many times, book one lesson with me. And we can perhaps find out one or two little tips and tricks that might help you develop further. And I keep saying that on my YouTube channel because obviously what works for 100 people may not work for the 5 on this side, you see. So I'm giving you lots of different ideas, and I'm hoping that you will use my channel as a lot of different ideas as your input, and then pick one or two things that you think are working for you. If you want any specific input, then please do book a lesson with me, and we can perhaps sort you out in 1.5 hour. And many people have come to me and said, okay, we have done the 1/2 hour, thank you, now I can learn again for another 6 months, and then they come back for another 1/2 hour. So if you think that's going to benefit you, then I'm sure I will put the link to my website in the description below this video. So just bear in mind that all the ideas that I'm giving in these live classes are ideas that work for a lot of people, and I'm hoping it will work for you as well. But you might be that one person with slightly longer fingers, or a slightly different shaped left hand, or a slightly different size violin, where you need some specific input. And here's another one. Kirsty was saying, I tried what you said and I realized I needed to change the angle of the shoulder rest. You see, this is another thing. So we were talking about relaxation of the left hand, or you were squeezing the left hand, weren't you? And yes, the issue might well be the angle of your shoulder rest. So some people have their shoulder rests much further this way, and for other people, but that depends on how steep your shoulder is here, how pronounced your collarbone is here, how long your neck is, how long your arms are. So there's all these variables that might change the idea. So other people play more like this. Most people would have the shoulder rest sort of directly across. And then of course there are many different types of shoulder rests that are all slightly different. But yeah, if you find you want to experiment a little bit, that might be one other thing. It all comes down to a good stance as well, isn't it? And that is actually where we should start every lesson, is how we're standing to play the violin. And I'm hoping that all of you are standing up playing the violin, because it gives you a much better starting point to learn the violin from. I totally appreciate it if people say, actually, I am a little bit more advanced in years and I can't stand up for half an hour. Then try to stand up for as long as you can and then sit down for the rest of your playing. But there is so much goodness in that benefits all of your violin technique, everything, literally, the left hand and the right hand and the way you hold the violin on your neck. That starts with a good standing position. Let me just have a look at the chat box again. Working on arm vibrato, says Wendy. Yeah, good. Still struggling with vibrato. I can do the movement, okay, when not playing, but as soon as I... Linda says, I'm sure that's not the case, Linda. I can do the movement, okay, when not playing, but as soon as I try to put it into music, I sound like a wailing cat. When you are playing and you have your ear really close to the violin, it sounds very different from somebody who's listening to you play, who stands 1 or 2 meters away or even further away. So it's very hard to judge how we actually sound when we play. And for some, it is really, really difficult to keep this vibrato going. Let's see, I'm here. So I'm there. And some people would go, can't go with a straight bow or a longer bow. It's like very much like rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time, because it's so different for your left and right hands. And when that happens, you want to go practice this and do something else. So you might practice this and raise your arm up and down. See if that works. So completely without the bow. Can you do that? And you can see, I can see it now in my own screen, that I'm not completely even with my vibrato. Can you see that? So then you do something else, which is more similar to bowing. Okay, and then once you've mastered that, put your bow to it as well. And then just aim for very long notes. So I'm not going to do more than one bow stroke. I'm just going... See if you can do it on a different note. Okay, before you then move on. But that is coordination that is quite challenging. So please don't despair if you find that for 6 months or 9 months really challenging. And like I said before, vibrato is not a thing that I can say, well, within 6 weeks you should learn this. Sometimes I teach vibrato to someone and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get it started because this person is so keen to do it. We'll see if it happens, and it happens tomorrow. And other people, I'm thinking, this person is so relaxed, everything looks in place for a successful vibrato, and then they try it and it takes a good 4 to 5 months before it actually comes. So vibrato is very much a matter of wait and see. And if you practice it seriously for 2 or 3 weeks and you think, can't see any change, just stop it completely for 3 months or for 6 months and then come back to it, repeat that whole process again, and suddenly you find yourself doing that all right, whereas before it was just impossible to do. Right, enough about vibrato, I would say. I'm just going to look at the chat box again. Second year of playing. Terry, what was this about? Let me just see. Okay, you wanted to play Raindrops Keep Falling on Your Head, don't you? Well, I think second year of playing, I would imagine that the key of G, D or A major would be the right key for you. So go ahead and have a look on Music or any other music software programs that you can download for free on the internet, or you take like a trial subscription and see if it works, and then cancel it again if you think, oh, there's nothing here that suits me. That's perfectly valid, and you can try and see if you can find one where you can change the key. So it might, because a lot of these more popular tunes, they are written in very difficult keys for beginner violinists, you see. And I used to play for the radio and Dutch television a bit early on in my career, and the pieces were absolutely dreadful because they were 5-6 flats and 6 sharps easily, and you think, why can't we write this into a sort of more easily accessible key? But this software nowadays can do that for you. So have a look on the internet and see what you can find. So there was another lesson that there was another question, that I wanted to address this time. Someone has asked this question, and I don't think we have ever talked about this. You know that I've got my Suzuki course, Learn to Play the Violin in 30 Days, on my YouTube channel, and that is still the most popular course on the channel. And people have asked me often, why should I learn the Suzuki method and not something else? Or they ask this question more generally as well, how do I know which course to start? Whether it's all for strings, or whether it's the Suzuki method, or whether it's the mindfulness, or whether it is the method without any book. Different things work for different people. That's why there is so much variety. And if you are trying to find a method that might be suitable for you, listen to some of the pieces and see if you like them. That it must always be the starting point in my book, that you enjoy what you're playing. And then once you get a book, some people start it from a different perspective, and they think, oh, okay, my granny has a Suzuki book in her loft, I would like to use that. That would be another very good reason to start doing that course. But why is the Suzuki method different from other ways of learning? I'll have a little word with you about that. The Suzuki method originally started, although I'm not a trained Suzuki teacher, I have to say that, but this is what I know about it, started as a mother tongue method. So Mr. Suzuki's aim was to help children to learn to play an instrument, first the violin and also piano, in a similar way to how children acquire language skills, and they learn it via their mother tongue. Of course, this was written in a time when it was often mothers staying at home with their children, so the idea was that children would learn the language from their mothers. And of course that starts very early on. When a baby is newborn, people start cooing above it, and they start to say, oh, can you smile, can you smile, can you smile, and they repeat lots of things all the time. And the Suzuki method is based on that idea that children are imitating and learning from their parents, giving the example, and then repeating things very, very often. And that is a very, very proven to be a very successful method. Lots of children have learned to play the Suzuki violin with the help of their parents, and still going on today. But when adults use the Suzuki method, obviously they won't learn it from their parents, but they will learn it from a video or from just going through the book by themselves, sheer determination. And that element, and we're coming full circle, which is quite nice, that element of repetition is sometimes missing. You see, so this is how the Suzuki method was originally intended, as a mother tongue method. When adults use it, there's just lovely pieces. That is the reason why I use the Suzuki method a lot with older people, with adults. But that element of repetition we want to try and bring in. Now, I had some friends whose children learned with the Suzuki method, and every time they played a piece they had to put a bean in a jar and repeat it so many times till the jar was full. I think nowadays people find that a bit more challenging to do, because we live in a time when we have instant gratification in a lot of different ways in our lives, and maybe persevering with something and perfecting something is not sort of our ideal world. It's more sort of broader development and trying many different things and then later deciding what's for you and what's not. But this is how it comes about, the Suzuki method: repetition and learning from an adult. So this is a little bit for, just in case this person who asked that question is here or might watch it later when the stream has gone onto the website, onto YouTube. Five or six flats, says Wendy. Yes, can you believe it? It gets very wearing after a while. Nature Sketches says, how many positions are there on the violin? That's an interesting question. There are 13 positions on the violin. And I'm just hoping that somebody now will not comment and say, oh no, there are officially 14. Because what happens is that we learn positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe some teachers will teach the 6th position. I personally don't, because I think once you have got so accomplished in playing higher positions that you can play the 5th position, you will work out your higher notes on the violin automatically. So, but there are, if you go and count them all and you go really high up on the violin, those are the number of positions. Okay, so many methods of teaching the violin start in the 1st position. There are also some methods that start teaching in the 3rd position, believe it or not. I personally don't, but that is one way, one approach of learning, and I'm very much the open-minded kind of teacher that if that works for you, then you go with that method. So always bear in mind that there are many ways that lead to the same goal, so one is not better than the other, but I'm just making you aware that sometimes happens, that there are methods that start in the 3rd position as a starting point. But we have the 1st position, then I teach the 3rd position after that, then I teach the 2nd position, then the 4th, and then the 5th position. And the 5th position is a very handy position to have, and it's one of the easiest positions, maybe the easiest position to learn, because when you play the 5th position, the fingering is exactly the same as when you play in the 1st position, except you play all your notes a string below where you'd play those notes when you play them in the 1st position. So the 1st and 5th position are definitely related. The 2nd and 4th position are related, and the 1st and 3rd position are related as well. And then all above that is the 6th and 6th to the 13th position. You have to be a pretty advanced violinist to get to that stage, and by that time you will be able to work out your notes, because you have learned many arpeggios and lots of scales that go up really high, so you will be able to work out those. Gosh, that's a very long answer to a very short question, how many positions there are. Ali is saying, I still have the bow bouncing when I play fast. I start from 6 months. Is it normal? So you've been playing, I take it that I'm understanding you correctly. You have been playing the violin for 6 months, and still when you play faster, your bow bounces. That's quite normal, I would say. You have perhaps picked up from some of my videos that when your bow bounces, it always bounces, or it's most likely to bounce in this area here. And the bow bounces there because it's made to bounce. When you get more advanced, you want to be able to play techniques where the bow bounces. So the bow is made to bounce. It is just a bit sort of annoying as a beginner, and at 6 months I would class you not a new beginner but a sort of advanced beginner, that bow will bounce, and it's all to do with tension in your right arm. So you might test your shoulder check that it is in its lowest position, and check that your upper arm is leaning into the string. So we have this weight of your arm that is transferred into the string. Okay, if you try to lift up the bow and you go here and you try actively to avoid the bounce by lifting up, you are going to encourage the bouncing, because the bouncing will be eliminated when there's weight of your arm into the string. Can you see the difference? Here I'm lifting it up, and that is going to encourage the bouncing. And then when I drop my shoulder, can you see this? I'm dropping it into the string, and it means that I'm hanging off the bow a little bit more. That's it. At the same time, you want to relax your bow hand fingers and let the bow do its work rather than interfering with it. So I'm here, I'm trying not to lift the bow off because I'm scared of the bounce, you see? Let it hang, drop your arm down, relax your bow fingers. Ooh, and that should help you. Now when you play very fast, here, this is a very strange thing because my shoulder needs to be low and I need to get that weight because I need to create this friction on the string so that I can hear my different notes, but my fingers need to be super soft. And you can perhaps see that I'm not actually holding the bow much. My bow is just balancing on my thumb here. Can you see that? So these fingers just lie here and they don't do anything. And you might try that and see if it helped your bow bouncing. Now we're coming to the end of our hour. So if you wish to support the Pro Am Strings channel, and if you think there is some value in this for you, obviously, can I ask that you like the videos that you watch? Perhaps write in the comments section, become a subscriber, or become a member of Henriette's Violin Club. And this is a membership club that I record specific new videos for. So they're exclusive videos. So if that's something that interests you, then please become a member. There's 3 different levels, the bronze, the silver and the gold. They cost a different amount, and I'm not going to try to remember what it costs exactly. You can find it on my channel because it gets calculated into your own currency, so whatever I say is going to be wrong anyway for different currencies. But what you can do as well is at the bottom of your chat box you can have a look, and you see that little $sign. When you click on that, you get to the super chats and the super stickers, and you can support this channel through YouTube. You can also, if you feel like, and I should be very grateful, make a donation via PayPal at info@braodcast.com. So there are many different ways. Of course, you can book a lesson as well. We've already mentioned that. But obviously, the more support we get from you guys, the people who use this channel, the more videos I can make. So thank you very much in advance for considering that. So watching all the videos to the end, liking them all and subscribing to the channel. People always ask me, why is that? How does it help me? The more people subscribe to the channel and like the videos and interact with it, so writing in the comments section, YouTube is picking that up as the video being more popular, so it will serve it to more like-minded people. So that is the way that it works. Now, a final look at the chat box, and then we're going to say goodbye. Okay, Kirsty is saying, that's a really valid comment. Thank you for that. I still have the bow bouncing after 14 months. If my shoulder is not too relaxed, well, you're summing it up, Kirsty, there. Do we need Suzuki 1 and 2 to start Suzuki 3? No, you don't. You can jump straight into Suzuki 3 if you want to, because they're new repertoire and I shall not be referring back to book 1 and 2. So you can jump straight in. But if you feel that once you get it going and you feel that you can't follow it, then go back a book and start book 2 and then book 3. So I'm hoping that answers your questions. Thank you. I love these classes. Thank you so much. I love doing them as well. Do we need Suzuki 1 or 2? Okay. And Connie says, thank you for the tips. So thank you all so much for coming in and for joining us today. And this video will stay on the channel once it's rendered and so on. It takes a little while for you to watch again if you like. So thank you very much for joining me here, and I look forward to seeing you in a live class again towards the end of May. Goodbye.